Hey there. So I'm going to define empathy, sympathy, and then explain the difference. So I'm going to start by using the Collins Online Dictionary and using the definitions of empathy and sympathy. And then I will go on to explain the differences and say what they mean to me, what I interpret these as, and yeah, give my interpretation of my own examples. Now, empathy. It starts here by saying empathy is the ability to share another person's feelings and emotions as if they were your own. And then on the example, it says, having begun my life in a children's home, I have great empathy with the little ones. Um, with that example, I don't think that's the best example because I don't think you have to have gone through a situation to empathize. And I've had people in my counseling class say, "Oh, I haven't been through this. How can I empathize?" Like the whole point of empathy is that you can put yourself in someone's situation and understand someone's situation. And I think people have different amounts of empathy, and someone who's very narcissistic and um, might even be a psychopath or sociopath. If you're very narcissistic, you might have little to no empathy, and if you have a lot of empathy, you will be like an empath. So someone who just can't help but feel everyone's emotions and exactly how they're feeling. I think most people, you know, are in the middle-ish of that range. I think I'm more of an empath, to be honest. I am quite sensitive to people's emotions. Um, so what I think empathy is in as the general definition for most people is that, you're talking to someone and you're able to visualize what it's like to be in that situation. You feel their emotions and you kind of you just you're in it with them, and it's not relevant. I mean, you can have your judgments and what you feel about them or the situation, but I think empathy goes as far as understanding that situation, and then where you go from there is up to you effectively. But it's about really being in the moment and truly understanding someone's situation. And I don't think you have to have gone through the exact same thing to feel empathy. I mean, sometimes it can help if you've had some really tragic situations yourself, but that general ability is very good to have, and I think you can use it generally to some extent. Now, next I'm going to talk about sympathy. In in the page I'm referencing, it has one and two different definitions. I believe the one we want is definition one. So if you do click on my link, it'll be definition one I'm reading off. It says, if you have sympathy for someone who is in a bad situation, you are sorry for them and show this is in the way you behave towards them. Okay, that's weirdly worded, but okay. They also have a couple examples, like we express our sympathy for her loss. I have had very little help from doctors, no sympathy whatsoever. The point is that it's normally when you feel sorry for someone. So this got critiqued a lot in one of my counseling classes, and I was a student, and my teacher played this video, and it really slated sympathy and promoted empathy. And I think empathy is truly important and it is the foundation, but I think sympathy got a really bad rap, and I think the true answer is somewhere in the middle. So if you feel bad for someone, that could be interpreted as, you're thinking you're better than them. You could be looking down on them, or you could genuinely just have sympathy. Like, I've had friends or people in situations where I empathize with them, and then I genuinely feel sorry for them because they're in a tough situation. I know what that's like, or I can imagine what that's like. You feel sorry for them, and I think sympathy depends where it comes from. You could have a very narcissistic person, and I see this a lot. Very narcissistic people. You see these situations come up on the news or wherever, and they say, oh my God, I feel so sorry for these people, but you can tell they don't have any genuine understanding or empathy. And I think that's a danger. And I think empathy is you can't really learn it from what I've read or heard. I think you're once you're past a certain age, I think you're kind of set who you are. But I think empathy is very important so you can truly understand the situation. And sympathy is a bit more like, oh, I feel like here's two examples. You could be like, oh God, I feel so sorry for them. Like they're so poor. Or you could be like, wow, like I understand their situation, and it also really sucks because I know it's a struggle and I can imagine it's really hard. Like it can be said in different ways. And I think sympathy can vary, but I think empathy is generally good because it gives you that tool and ability to understand the situation. And then if you want to give sympathy, that's up to you. Like just because you don't have sympathy, it doesn't mean you're a bad person either. That you don't have to sympathize with people. I think empathy is good enough. And sometimes you might not want to because you could empathize with someone having a bad situation. For example, a billionaire crashing their favorite car and they're very personally connected to it and they get very upset. I think the average person, well, I don't know if the average person would be able to empathize, but put yourself in that situation. Like it means a lot to them. It's very upsetting. They have a personal connection to that car, but you might think also, well, I empathize, but I don't have sympathy because I know you can afford a new car, you weren't injured, like, other people have bigger problems. That's kind of my take on sympathy. But yeah, again, I don't think sympathy is massively important, and I think it's better to have empathy because you can understand the situation and then do what you want from there. That's pretty much my definitions, differences, and yeah, I hope that helps.